New York Jets lose to the Detroit Lions 20-17.
Inside, and a beauty! Hall running free! Brees Hall inside the 10! He's gonna score!
What is going on, guys? Welcome back to Talking Jets with Tigo. My name is Tigo, and we're going to be going over my immediate reactions after the New York Jets versus Detroit Lions game. We lose that game 20-17, and unfortunately, the New York Jets season is over. I think the playoffs are a non-starter at this point. I thought we needed 11 wins to get to the playoffs. I don't think 10 is going to be enough, and losing to the Lions is just the nail in the coffin for the New York Jets this season. And I honestly look at it and I go, we had a great year, and there was a lot of improvement, and there was a lot of positives, and there was a lot of things that we saw, but it just isn't enough. 7 wins is a market improvement. 3 wins over last year. We're still playing meaningful games. I'm not saying that the playoffs aren't a realistic opportunity now, but we need a lot. I no longer look at it and say that our destiny is in our control anymore. We need things to happen to other teams for us to make the playoffs, and that's just the reality of the situation. We need to be batting 1,000 over these next 3 games. We cannot drop a single game, and we need the Chargers to drop games, the Dolphins to drop games, the Patriots to drop games. Like it's just the reality of what we're in. The Bengals and or the Ravens to drop games. Like that's just where we're at right now, and it sucks. But we're not talking about the playoffs. Let's talk about this game. Let's talk about our guys, what I saw from this team, and let's start on offense. Obviously, a lot of people are going to be talking about Zach Wilson, and this is the thing that infuriates me with Zach Wilson, right? Is that we get, in this single game, we get to see the two sides of Zach Wilson, right? We get to see the, for sure, an NFL quarterback, probably a top 10 NFL quarterback, if we're being honest, version of him, where he's hitting CJ Uzomah on a rollout for 40 yards, or he's hitting Garrett Wilson deep for 33 yards, or he hits, Elijah Moore for 21 yards, or that Jeff Smith pass for 50 yards, or, like, we see that version of Zach Wilson, and we're like, that's who we drafted. That's who we need him to be. And then in the same game, or the very next play, Zach Wilson throws up a stinker, interception. I don't know who he was looking at, if we're being honest. Or he throws up a ball to nobody and just gets lucky that Michael Carter's in the area and goes and gets that ball, and it's just, how do you have both of these quarterbacks inside of one body? He just lets the game and the emotion of the game get to him too much, in my opinion. And he goes 18 of 35, which is a 52-ish % completion percentage, which just isn't good enough. 317 yards, and that's great. You got the yardage. A lot of it was on big chunk plays that the Detroit Lions were giving up because they were stacking the box. He gets 2 touchdown passes, and they were both great touchdown passes, both of them to CJ Uzomah. Loved the play call there at the end, honestly. And then we lose the game on honestly, some BS. It just doesn't make sense to me how you hit Elijah Moore in that last play that gets us into field goal position, but the 2 plays before, you miss Elijah Moore wide open in space. Braxton Berrios wide open in space. I just don't understand what's happening here. But that's just the reality of the situation. That's how it is. Another thing that didn't help Zach Wilson, and I'm not making excuses for him. I think this loss is on Zach Wilson, but we also didn't do much to help him when it came to creating space with the offensive line or in the running game. Wide receivers were open, and he was missing wide receivers, plain and simple. But we averaged 2.3 yards per carry on the rushing attempts today. We gave the Zonovan Knight the ball 13 times. He got 23 yards, and that's not on Zonovan. That's on this O-line. This offensive line, in my opinion, did everything in their power to throw this game. They wanted Detroit to win. It seemed that way. They couldn't create any push in the run game. They couldn't stop a bowling ball or a beach ball coming through that coming through that offensive line. They just didn't look good at all. And it just goes to show, like, more and more when we lose these guys, how good Max Mitchell was, how good obviously Elijah Vera Tucker is, and just how bad some of these guys have been playing, and it's just not good enough. And I was on the verge, and I was one of the people that was like, we shouldn't take an offensive lineman in the first round. I am now fully on board. I think we need an offensive lineman in the first round. We need someone with positional versatility, because right now I just don't think we've got the guys in-house to get it done. Or I think we do have the guys in-house, but we can't rely on them 100% right now. So there's that. Now let's talk about the receivers. A couple of receivers with good days. Garrett Wilson, four receptions on 9 targets for 98 yards. Jeff Smith, 4 receptions on 5 targets for 77 yards. Elijah Moore, 4 receptions on 7 targets for 51. CJ Uzomah caught the ball twice for 41. A lot of production. 317 yards in the air from our wide receivers. Unfortunately, that we couldn't turn those things into touchdowns. But one thing that I did want to mention is that Garrett Wilson, I love this kid, and I'm so happy that he's on my football team, but he needs to grow up, man. All of this complaining and throwing his arms up and punching the air and doing that stuff after a pass is missed or after he's not targeted or whatever it is, you got to stop that. Because, yes, you got 4 catches for 98 yards, but there were 5 misses there, right? And it's probably safe to assume that Zach is the reason that there's 5 non-catches there, but you're not perfect either. The expectation that your teammate needs to be perfect is unacceptable, and you got to just grow up, man. This is about being a professional. It's just unacceptable to keep throwing up your arms and punching the air and doing that stuff. You're compounding the issue. You're supposed to be a teammate, help and lift your guy up, because you know how emotional, how the emotions and the ride that affects Zach. Like, you want to get the ball more? Okay, have Zach feeling good. Go back to the huddle and be like, yo, man, we missed this one. We'll get it on the next one. That's how you are as a professional. Not with all of this childish punching the air and complaining after the play is over. We got to cut that out now. And I'm not trying to dog on Garrett Wilson. He is, I think, the best player that we have on offense, and he is our wide receiver 1, and I'm very, very excited for the future. But he's got to grow up, because he's got to stop with that stuff sooner rather than later. And then we got to talk about special teams and some of these guys. It's crazy to think that Braxton Berrios is somehow or some way has just forgotten how to play football. He's not catching balls. He's not playing special. Like, he was a Pro Bowler last year when it came to special teams. And now this year he's just absolutely abysmal. It makes no sense. Braden Mann should be unemployed. That's just the reality of the fact. He is not a good punter. And he is a definite reason that, like, cost us the game, in my opinion, when it came to, like, the things that, like, were going on. It's just unacceptable. That's the reality of it. And then, like, it's just unacceptable what we saw. Also, for us not to have backups or people to fill in when it comes to the special teams. Obviously, we know that Brandon Eccles was down with an injury, so he didn't play. But you could tell on the punt unit that he wasn't there, and how important he is to that unit. That falls on the special teams coach. I'm forgetting his name right now, but you got to be able to coach up your guys. You got to be able to have your guys be productive and be helpful. And you just like every other position on the football team has backups that you got to expect to at least play competent. Gunners and all that stuff is in the same boat. You got to expect those guys to come in and play at some level of, competency, which we just didn't. And then the defense, they did a great job today, except for a couple of plays. Obviously, the CJ Mosley blunder that gave the Lions the touchdown there at the end is there. But honestly, a pretty good day from everybody else. Quincy Williams had himself a fantastic day and really popped out of the screen, in my opinion. Will Parks, who wasn't on the team 2 days ago, leads the team in total tackles, which is just phenomenal. Quan Alexander was out there flying, and you love to see that. Michael Carter had a rough start, but really picked that up and took on the challenge of covering Amon-Ra St. Brown really, really well. And then obviously Sauce and DJ just doing their jobs, being locked down and really didn't give up too many yards. I don't know if Sauce was really ever targeted, but DJ Reed, again, 3 passes defended today, really was the target of the Detroit offense, and really showed us his recovery ability. He would get beat at the initial part of the route, but he would just recover and regain speed and space really, really well. But we do got to talk about this defensive line. This defensive line relied so much on Quinnen Williams that I think they're having a hard time finding their identity without him. And that's a problem. We've got players on this D-line that should be able to make up for the fact that Quinnen Williams is gone. We shouldn't fall apart to the run the way that we did and let Detroit rush for 107 yards. It's just unacceptable the way that it worked. It's just, we can't let that happen. But that's the game. 20-17 for the Lions at home. We got a short week, so I don't expect anything to change or to get better. Hopefully, Quinnen Williams can come back and play. We're playing the Jaguars at home on Thursday, and that's just not going to be fun in the big, grand scheme of things. But we'll see how it goes. Jets can't drop a single game now if we want to go to the playoffs, and it's time to start rooting for, like, I guess, Tennessee and whoever else in Las Vegas to start winning games, because that's who we need to win, because we need New England to lose and we need the Chargers to lose. Alrighty, guys, let me know what you think in the comment section below. It was a brutal, brutal game. And last but not least, go Jets.